Hi, I'm the Jason of All Trades. This video is part of a long-term review series I'm producing on the Singer heavy-duty sewing machines. I'm evaluating the performance of the machine, testing its capabilities, and possibly forming an opinion on its longevity. I purchased this machine myself, and my opinions are based solely on my experience with this single machine. I've heard from many over the years who love their Singer heavy-duty machines, and many others who have had bad experiences. Caveat emptor. During this series, I will try sewing various things with the machine, with an emphasis on the heavier fabrics and complicated assemblies I tend to prefer. I will also compare the machine to some of my vintage sewing machines and even my portable and industrial walking foot machines. Is the Singer heavy-duty sewing machine the best sewing machine ever made for sewing heavier materials, or is it a total waste of money to be avoided? Time and testing will hopefully reveal an answer, but I suspect it will be somewhere in between. Follow along with this series, and together we will learn more about what this machine can and can't do. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification so you know when I release new videos in this series. And now on to the video. Hello, sewing people of the internet. Today, in the continuing testing and evaluation of the Singer heavy-duty machine, I'm going to compare it to what would be in the running for my favorite vintage domestic machine, my Singer 237. To a certain extent, this is going to be a little bit subjective. If I see any performance differences, of course, I'll call those out. I can tell you that I have a strong preference for the 237, both for practical reasons and just kind of feel. Someone asked a question recently about how plasticky this machine feels in comparison, and the controls feel like I'm playing with a toy. It's like Fisher-Price level of feel, you know? And that's not necessarily bad. It's actually probably easier to use the controls than on a vintage machine, but it's definitely a different feeling that I'm not sure I prefer. So I may feel warm fuzzy feelings about the 237 that really apply to me and may or may not apply to you. From a practical standpoint, the 237 hands down wins for me, and for me specifically, because it uses a class 15 bobbin, which is the same as the bobbin in the Sailrite machines. Oh. Speaking of bobbins, so it uses the same bobbin as in the Sailrite, and it has the same footprint. So at my workshop, I have a Sailrite industrial style table for ultrafeeds, and this machine can also fit in it. So in a scenario where I had to pare down to only two machines, I could theoretically have the Sailrite LSZ1 and this machine and have one table that both machines could operate out of, and or not at the same time, but I could use the table for either machine, and I could just have a whole bunch of the same size bobbins, and just grab a bobbin with the right thread in it and don't worry about which machine it's for because they're all the same. So I really like that. The power of this machine is not impressive, and if you didn't see my speed comparison video, it's not fast at all. There is a more powerful aftermarket motor for it. It's like 40 bucks. I've thought about getting it for years and never have, and I'm kind of thinking I might be spurred to do so after this testing, but I wanted to keep it stock for this comparison. But that's probably the biggest criticism I have of this machine, is it's just not particularly powerful, but for the needs that I have for it, it's fine. So anyway, all those caveats out of the way about why I'm probably going to like the 237 better no matter what. Let's see how they perform compared to one another. You're a good boy. So the first thing I'm going to do with these two machines, I have this toiletry bag that I made a long time ago. This is 10.10 ounce waxed canvas with some kind of random cotton fabric that I bought at Joann Fabrics as a liner, and there's supposed to be a pull tab under this flap, and it just frayed and came off. So I'm going to make a new tab, and it gets sewn under the hook Velcro on here. So I'm going to sew the hook Velcro back on with this tab behind it. I think I made this with this machine, but I really can't remember. But anyway, I'll do some of it with the 237 and then finish it on the heavy duty and just see if there's any noticeable difference in performance. This ribbon, by the way, is just from a finisher metal from a race. I'm using V69 thread, as I almost always do. And also, as I almost always do, I don't have any idea what needle is in the 237 right now. I do know it's a needle that's compatible with V69 because that's what I usually use in the machine. So. And as you can see, that was a non-issue. Sorry about all the noise. My wife decided while I'm filming is the best time to wash her wetsuit. And if you want to know why she had to wash her wetsuit, I'll put a link to a video from my other channel. Alright, so did the first line on the 237. I'm just going to sew the rest of the way around with the heavy duty, and we'll see if there's any notable differences. Kind of hard to say without literally sewing side by side with them, but I don't know if I would say the heavy duty feels like it fed that material better, but it has continually surprised me how good it feels like it is feeding. And maybe it's because I had low expectations and thought it was going to suffer, or struggle feeding more, but it did that fine. Zero complaints about that. If I'm right in remembering that I made this project with the 237, then I would guess I would be able to make it just as well with the heavy duty. Alright, let's find something else to try. Okay, I spent the last week or two kind of racking my brain to come up with a test to use on these two machines. And what I've settled on is I'm going to make an EDC pouch. Maxpedition is probably the best known brand of these kinds of things, a little zipper bifold pouch to hold things like a little flashlight, multi-tool, knives, whatever. I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail on how I make this. If there's sufficient interest, maybe I'll do an actual tutorial on making this. I've never made one of these. I'm kind of surprised to say that because I've kind of wanted one for about 6 years now. So, but because it's bifold, I can make half on one machine and half on the other, and kind of get some idea, I hope, of what, if any, differences there are. So let's do that. I didn't go far enough back on my first zigzag back. That's totally on me. I'll just go over it again. But again, pretty pleased with the zigzag stitch on this machine. Okay, I would say that side went very well on the Singer HD. No real complaints other than me not knowing what I'm doing. By the way, I'm using white thread specifically so I can see how the stitch formation is. This is a prototype. If I ever decide to make a permanent one, I would use matching colored thread to make it look better. But so yeah, all things considered, I'd say that's fine. This is, if you look at this closely, it's pretty crooked. That's all me. Nothing to do with the machine. So now I'm going to make the other side on the 237, and we'll see how that goes. To my eye, I would say these two machines performed equally well doing the zigzag stitch on this elastic. I've already covered up the back side, but they look to me to be pretty much the same. I would say that the Singer HD, the controls are a little bit quicker to go between zigzag and straight stitch and just, redo the stitch length and all the adjustments. It's just a little bit faster. And I would say the slow speed control is a little bit better with the 237. I would say marginally, but a little bit better. But so far, I'd say they're pretty close. This is something I don't think you can do. I'll have to try it. I'm not sure if you can do it with the modern machine. I'm using the stitch length and reverse lever to precisely put the needle where I want it to in that last stitch. I'll have to try that on the other machine. I'm not sure if it works that way, but So I mentioned a minute ago about using the stitch length and reverse lever on the 237 to precisely place the needle, and I was just trying to see if that's possible here, but this is just on-off reverse. It's not part of the stitch length lever, and so that trick doesn't really work. Not a big deal, but just thought I'd mention it. In a recent video or two in this series, I discussed binding and how I just like to use my industrial machine to bind with, but I'm going to try using Mil-Spec 5038 or Grosgrain to bind this. I don't have a binding attachment. I have one that I can put on this machine, but I don't have one for the Singer HD, so to keep it fair, I've got it clipped on here. I'm just going to sew it on manually. If it's really terrible, then I'll just use my other machine. But this is hideous. Didn't even catch the baste stitches. I'm gonna have to do this on my other machine. I'll put binding on the other side with the other machine just to compare. Maybe I can just put another row of stitches. This is awful though. This is not good at all. I made a real rookie mistake and forgot to put the presser foot down when I started. I'm surprised it went as far as it did and didn't turn into a bird's nest. So I got to fix that, and then on this side, this is the danger of freehand binding. It, caught the edge on one side but not on the other, so I'll just have to stitch that down. Again, this went way better on this machine than I would have ever expected. I'm actually really surprised how easily it went and how well it turned out, all things considered, but it's still garbage. This is just not the way to do binding. I'm working on a video on the topic of binding at some point, but there's a reason why I never do it this way. Okay, so this pouch is not really the subject of this video, but I'll point out a couple of things just for fun. If I didn't mention it in voiceover or text earlier, this is made out of one layer of 1000D Cordura, one layer of 400D nylon pack cloth, and I did the binding with Mil-Spec 5038 Grosgrain, just the same as regular Grosgrain basically. It's a number 8 YKK zipper, and I used V69 thread and a size 100 needle in the Singer Heavy Duty, and I think there's probably a 90 or something in the 237, I don't know. The webbing on this is Mil-Spec 17737 webbing. And then the elastic, I think I pointed that out earlier, but it's just from Jo-Ann Fabrics, just some kind of standard elastic, nothing special. So, as I said, the pouch is not the subject of the video, but I will point out a couple of things I screwed up on. I kind of made this backwards. The mesh pocket is supposed to be on the front, which means that it should open this way, but it opens this way because I was more interested in seeing how the machines worked than trying to make this pouch correctly, so kind of screwed that up. I really was trying to make this just as a test, but also a run through of the construction of a pouch like this, and if it turned out okay, then I'll make one better. I think when I do make another one, I'll bind it with mil-spec 4088 on my binding machine at my shop. But anyway, so real quick, this is the pouch just to show that it is in fact a functioning prototype. I went ahead and put a bunch of stuff in it. If you're not familiar with these style of pouches, a lot of people use them in the everyday carry community, and most of this stuff lives in my backpack anyway. I can see the advantage of having it in a separate pouch, and then if I change to a different pack, I can just put this in a different pack or bring this with me if I needed it for some reason. So I just got a couple of writing implements, a flashlight, a multi-tool, an extra knife, my earbuds, got a notepad stuffed in this slip pocket here. In the front pocket, I've just got this knot tying guide, a bunch of different knots on cards to help you remember them. You know, that's probably a pretty typical way I would use a pouch like this. The nice thing of making your own, though, is of course you could organize it for whatever items you want to carry, or for some particular use. Like you could make a pouch like this to carry your favorite fishing lures, or maybe some photography equipment, or something that you need in particular that maybe something isn't made for. So that's why we're all here. So let's talk about these machines. So if you've been watching this channel for any time, you may know that the Singer 237 is one of my favorite machines and one that I've recommended highly. Many of you have Singer 237s, at least you tell me because of my recommendation, and thanks for paying attention. If there was ever a machine that I wanted to handily defeat the Singer HD in a head-to-head combat, it was this machine. It did not. It didn't lose. I don't know if there's a win-lose situation here. I would say they both performed more or less equally. And when you consider that I paid $20 for my Singer 237 and $230 or whatever it was, I forget now. Yeah, around $230 for this heavy duty. Well, the Singer 237 wins then. I mean, obviously that's a much better buy. However, I got really lucky buying this one for 20 bucks. I see them on the used marketplace sometimes advertised for $50, $75, $100. Occasionally people are asking over $200. I think those people just don't know what they're doing. I think $100 is about the max I would pay for a 237. It's an awesome machine. Part of what makes it awesome is getting it for very little money. So I would say they both performed equally except for in one area. For some reason the binding process went way better on the Singer Heavy Duty. I'm not exactly sure why. It might be because of the wider foot or the wider feed dogs, giving it perhaps a little bit better purchase on the combination of the binding, the grosgrain, and the seam that I was sewing. It's a fairly intangible difference. I can't say it was 37% better, but it was noticeably easier for me to do, and the results were, if not a lot better, seemed to be a little bit better. They were all terrible because binding that way is awful. But that was one difference that I noted, though, that the Singer HD definitely outperformed the 237. The one thing that I'm still not sure about, and I don't know when I will be sure about, is the longevity of the Singer HD machine. Anecdotally, I've had many of you comment in the comment sections, many people who own these machines who have complained about having broken them fairly soon after getting them, and that is a concern for me. This machine was made in 1968 to 1972. I think this is an earlier one, so probably 1968, 69, and it's still going. I seriously doubt that can be said for the Singer Heavy Duty, but I haven't broken mine yet. I'm not trying to break it, but I'm not trying to break it either. And so far it's been actually great. Up until this point, without having broken it yet, if one were to ask me, hey, I want to buy a machine and I really don't want a vintage machine for whatever reason, I need a machine that I can go buy today, is the Singer Heavy Duty useful for making DIY projects? Yeah, I'm leaning heavily towards yes, it is. I still don't know about the longevity, but many of you have asked about sewing 1000D Cordura. That's what we did in today's project. Yes, it was a pretty thin assembly. At the most, there was a couple of times where there might have been a really short section of 6 layers maybe with some of the foldovers where the zipper extension was. But not a great test of its ability, but it's been great. I do like how easy it is to adjust from zigzag to straight stitch very quickly. I still don't think I love the reverse lever. I actually like where it is, I think, but I like that on a vintage machine you can kind of use that reverse lever to shorten a stitch in the process of making that stitch when you want to land right at a corner, or put the needle right exactly where you want it. It's not that big of a deal. You can lift the foot and kind of accomplish the same thing. So I'm just kind of riffing here on some things that have come to mind as I've been using this machine. It might seem a little out of order, but I do like that you can see the bobbin. I was kind of put off by that. It's a plastic bobbin, and there's a plastic see-through panel on top of it, and that seems cheap. But at any point, you can look and see how much bobbin thread you have left. So that's kind of nice. We've all run out of bobbin thread before, and that's annoying. It's not going to save you every time. The fabric that you're sewing will be on top of it a lot of the time, but it's kind of nice to be able to quickly glance at that. So there's a lot that this machine has going for it that I'm pleasantly surprised by. So, all that said, in the comparison between the Singer 237 and the Singer Heavy Duty 6360, whichever one this is, I would say that I don't know. In performance, I'd probably give just the slightest nod to the Heavy Duty. In terms of which one someone should buy, well, this one is proven. It's not going to break. I mean, within reason, it's not going to break. It's a long-lasting, durable machine. It's a little bit slow. If you refer back to the speed test I did, the Singer Heavy Duty put out something like 1,038 stitches per minute, and the 237 was in the 700 range. I forget exactly. There is a more powerful motor I'm thinking about putting on this machine just to see what difference it makes. But the speed of the two machines did not make any difference at all today. I don't think I had either one of them floored for more than a second or two. So, which one would I buy? I'd probably buy the 237. But if you need a machine today and you need to be able to go to the store and get it, and for whatever reason you don't want a vintage machine, and given the caveat that I don't know how long this machine is going to hold up, so far, yeah, that's a real viable option. It did a great job on this project today. Anyway, I hope that you are finding this series of videos helpful. If you like this stuff, clicking like is always a nice thing to do. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel. There's a bunch of links in the description you can check out, including a link to my second YouTube channel that has nothing to do with sewing, but if you just love looking at this face, actually my face doesn't appear that much in that channel. But anyway, you can check out the other channel. So thanks so much for watching. More of this series is coming. See you soon.